Welcome to the Lean Solutions Podcast. This is the podcast that adds value to leaders by helping you improve performance using process improvement solutions with bottom line results. My name is Patrick Adams, and this season I'll be joined by three other amazing hosts, including Catherine McDonald from Ireland, Andy Olrich from Australia, and Shane Doffenbaugh from the United States. Join us as we bring you guests and experiences of lean practitioners from all over the world. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. My name is Patrick Adams, and today I'm going to be talking to you about soft skills, the importance of developing your own personal soft skills, and the importance of helping leaders that are working for you develop their soft skills. So I want to begin by thinking about the best leader that you've ever worked with. Think about that person. Try to get a picture of them in your mind right now. Maybe it's someone that you worked for earlier in your career. Maybe it's someone you're working for right now. But think about that particular leader. Get a picture of them in your mind. Think about their characteristics, how they approach business, how they approach conversations with you, with others, their peers. What are the behaviors? What are the habits, the actions of that leader, right? Think through that a little bit. Okay, now, was it their technical expertise that made them great? Or was it their ability to connect, to inspire, to bring people together, right? Chances are that it's actually their soft skills that made the lasting impression. Soft skills are often seen as like this nice to have, right? For many organizations, it's not something that's listed on job descriptions or job postings or anything like that. It's like, we need the technical skills. And then, oh, well, if they happen to be a good communicator, if they happen to, have some of those good emotional, interpersonal skills, then that'll be good. That's nice to have, right? But in reality, soft skills are essential to effective leadership. These are the skills that really help us to communicate. They help us to build trust and to really foster a sense of belonging within our teams. Without good soft skills, even the best strategies are going to fall flat on their face. So today, I want to explore why soft skills are so important for leaders. I want to talk about, some of the most critical soft skills that I believe are necessary, especially in a learning culture, especially in a culture of continuous improvement. I also want to talk about how we can develop these skills to create a more positive impact within your team, within your organization. And then later on, we're going to be joined by Andy Olrich from Australia, and he'll review the same presentation or the same conversation that we're having right now. We'll kind of review that. And then him and I will have a deeper conversation. We'll go into kind of unpack some of the things that I'm talking about right now and go in maybe some more specific details from his experiences or some of the leaders that he's worked with or is currently working with. So let's dive in here. So soft skills are those interpersonal or emotional skills that really help us to connect with others, our peers, those that are working for us, even those that we're working for. So they include things like communication, empathy, adaptability, and our emotional intelligence. And unlike most technical skills, soft skills aren't about what you know. They're really about how you apply that knowledge in the relationships that you have. So if we look at research, research shows that leaders with strong emotional intelligence can actually boost performance by up to 20%, right? And those are real numbers based on real statistics. So just think about that. Just by improving how you interact with your team, you can unlock their full potential. Soft skills will create alignment. They're going to create trust. They're going to create collaboration. All of these ingredients that are really going to help you to be successful in the work that you're doing. I think about a leader that I once worked with who had, all the technical expertise you could imagine, but they struggled with empathy. Their team felt unheard, undervalued, and as a result, morale and productivity plummeted. When that leader started practicing active listening and showing genuine appreciation, the team completely turned around. And that's the power of soft skills. So when we think about different types of soft skills, there are lots of soft skills that are out there. But I want to hit on just a couple of those that I think are most important. And I want to start with empathy. Empathy is about understanding and sharing the feelings of others. It's basically like putting yourself in the shoes of someone that's working for you, or a peer, whoever it may be. Put yourself in their shoes, walk in their shoes for a day, and really get a good feeling and understanding for what they're experiencing. It's really the foundation of connection. I remember working with a team through a tough restructuring, and one leader stood out because they took the time to actually sit down and have conversations with each team member. This particular leader listened to their concerns, and they validated each of their team members' feelings. They didn't have all the answers, right? As leaders, we don't have to have all the answers, but sometimes just showing the empathy, just being present, genuinely listening, that is what's necessary in order to make our team members feel supported and valued. So how do we apply empathy in the work that we do? My recommendation would be to start by practicing active listening. When someone shares something, resist the urge to interrupt or offer solutions, right? Put your phone away. It's not enough to just lay it on the table or turn it over. Actually put it in your pocket. Genuinely pay attention, genuinely listen. Have some visual cues of shaking your head, of agreeing, or even asking questions. Ask questions like, can you tell me more? Or how can I best support you? Or what can I help you with, right? Or even, what do you think we should do here? Empowering them to come up with solutions. So that's another great way. So that's empathy. The next one I think is really key is communication. So good communication isn't just what you say, it's about you saying it and then how well you actually listen. I once worked on a project where the leader set very clear expectations at the start, had regular check-ins, and made sure that everyone knew how their work contributed to the bigger picture. That clarity kept everyone aligned and motivated. So how do we get really, really good at communication, right? Well, we need to focus on clarity and consistency. Very clear expectations laid out up front, but also clarity around those expectations. What does that mean to the people that are doing the work, or ensuring that there's consistency in how you're communicating your message? Use simple language, repeat key points, always invite questions to ensure understanding, right? I love to just ask people to repeat, what we discussed, or I'll repeat what we discussed and then follow up with an email, bullet points, just very good clarity around what's being expected or what was communicated. All right, another soft skill that I want to talk about is adaptability. Change is constant, and great leaders will embrace change with flexibility and resilience. So let me just give you a quick example. If we go back to COVID during the pandemic, one company that I worked with had to pivot their entire business model, right? Their leader kept the team motivated the entire time by, really just being open to new ideas, staying calm under pressure, and involving everyone in the decision-making process. That adaptability helped them not just survive, but thrive, right? Not just survive, but thrive. If you think about that, how many leaders in organizations actually didn't pivot during COVID? I have to imagine that if they didn't, maybe the companies are not still in business, because a lot of things changed, right? I go back to thinking about Blockbuster Video. For all those of you that know, that used to be a company where you would go in and you would find DVDs on the shelf, and you would rent the DVDs and then bring them back after a day or two. Are they still in business? No. Why? They weren't willing to pivot. They weren't willing to adapt to the changes that were happening around them, right? So obviously most people went online and started watching movies, via the internet and other apps and different services. Well, Blockbuster didn't make the adjustment, and now they're out of business. Leadership is the same way. As leaders, we have to be willing to be flexible. When things happen that are out of our control, we have to be willing to adapt and be flexible with where we go with that, right? You have to model a growth mindset. When challenges arise, instead of saying, this won't work, right? Try something different. Try to say, what could we learn from this? And let's move forward on a path that's going to keep us going in the same direction as our long-term goals, but maybe we have to traverse a little bit and make some adjustments to the way that we're doing business. Okay, the last one of these soft skills that I want to talk about is emotional intelligence, or EQ, right? Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and manage your emotions and the emotions of others. I once saw a leader diffuse a heated meeting simply by acknowledging the tension and calmly redirecting that particular conversation, right? They didn't let their emotions take over, and they set the tone for the entire room. In a way that you can apply this to your own personal development, practice self-awareness by pausing before you react, right? This is one that I have to work on too in my marriage. A lot of times we get into heated arguments and things. Hopefully I'm not the only one, but we get into these heated arguments, and then I have a tendency sometimes to respond without, thinking through and really listening and understanding what my wife is struggling with. The same thing in the workplace, right? It's important that we genuinely listen, take into consideration what that person is telling us, take a minute to pause, think through, and then react, right? You can ask yourself, sometimes you can ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling angry? Am I feeling confused? If those are things that are happening, then don't respond, right? You have to respond constructively. So wait. Sometimes you have to take a pause and say, hey, listen, let's pause. Let's come back in 60 minutes and restart this conversation. So don't be afraid to do that as well. All right, some practical steps that you can take to develop your skills when it comes to those soft skills that we talked about. Number one is self-reflection. Start by reflecting on your interactions, right? Are there moments where you could have listened more or responded with greater empathy? Ask yourself that. Number two, active practice. Join a workshop, take on a mentorship role, or practice role-playing scenarios to improve your communication and conflict resolution skills. It has to be intentional. Build it into your leader standard work. Find a mentor that can oversee your conversations with someone and give you some feedback. This moves into the third step, is seeking feedback, right? Ask your team for feedback. Ask a mentor, a coach, to help support you. Ask your team, how can I better support you? Are there things that I can do differently? And be open to what their response is, right? If you're going to ask, you need to be open to how they might respond as well. So that would be number three. And then number four is lead by example. Show your team what good soft skills look like. You have to lead by example. Consistency is key. If you want a collaborative team, you need to model collaboration. All right, just a little recap before we bring Andy into the conversation. We've talked about what soft skills are, why they're essential for leaders, and how to develop them. Skills like empathy, communication, adaptability, and emotional intelligence are the true drivers of connection and trust within your team. My challenge to you is this: choose one soft skill that you want to improve this week. Maybe it's listening. Maybe it's being more adaptable in difficult situations. Whatever it is, focus on that one skill and apply it intentionally every single day. At the end of the day, reflect. How'd you do? What can you do differently tomorrow, right? All right, leadership. It's not about having all the right answers. It's about bringing out the best in others. By sharpening your soft skills, you can inspire your team to achieve incredible things. Remember, people follow people, not titles. Let's check in with Andy. All right. Well, Andy, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you again. And I'm excited to dive into this topic with your help, kind of unpack some of these concepts and things that I think are super relevant and important for many of our listeners. But before we get into that, how are things down under?
Things are good, mate. Yeah, great to be back on again. Certainly, this topic definitely, as you mentioned, really important. It's hot down here at the moment. We've had 3 or 4 days where it's, what would be over 100 in the States or about 40 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, but we're leading into that Christmas break. A lot of activity, a lot of things getting wrapped up for the year. But, yeah, really excited for the year ahead, though. So, yeah, good to be with you again, mate.
Nice. Well, yeah, completely opposite here. We're here in Michigan. We're getting hit pretty hard with snow right now. So we got a big snow front coming in, and woke up this morning with a good amount of white stuff on the ground. So quite a bit different. We got to get you up here in the winter sometime, man. There's lots of good things to do.
I would love to. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Believe it or not, it does snow in Australia, but yeah, it's a little bit of a drive away from where I am. So I'd welcome that opportunity, mate, anytime.
Well, Andy, the topic for today is all around soft skills and the importance of soft skills in our personal lives and also in developing a true continuous improvement culture. And so, I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking this. But I threw out a couple different soft skills that I think are very important. I'm sure maybe you have some of your own. But I'd love to just talk through, maybe even some of those practical steps that we can take as leaders to continue to develop our own soft skills, and some of your experience from that perspective as well. So I shared a couple stories that I've experienced where I've experienced the power of good soft skills. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on a few of those. Maybe around either communication or empathy, emotional intelligence, whatever it may be. What are your initial thoughts after listening to the presentation, the recording today?
Definitely the one that I connect with, that I've I guess enjoyed working with leaders in this space the most, was empathy. I find that really is a powerful way that leaders, and I try to myself, is really have that, as you said, walk a mile in someone else's shoes, put yourself in their place and see it from their perspective. I think that really helps both sides, and allow them to do the same with yours where appropriate. It's really to have that day in the life in what they're experiencing. Again, where go to Gemba is so important. You're out there, you're interacting. I think until you actually walk a mile in someone else's shoes in whatever part of life or work, you just don't, for me, I just don't really feel what they're feeling. So I've had some great experiences where, for example, in the workplace where when I was working in the underground mining industry, the new mining engineers, they would normally come from university and whatever persuasion, but they would actually spend 6 months down working at the coalface, as they say. So they're down in the production teams, actually doing that really hard physical work to give them that deep understanding of what really goes on down there. And it was amazing. You would have someone after 6 to 8 months, completely foreign from that industry, would have not only that deep understanding in the people side of things, but also the technical aspects of what really goes on down there. And when they would come back, as we'd say, when they'd come back down the pit after going back up and doing the engineering work on the surface most of the time, just the connection with the teams, things that they were potentially asking them to explore or do or change. It was a lot easier to get that happening from that perspective, because they knew that that person actually knows what they're going through. So that's a great example. Or they put people to work on the production line, or yeah, just that whole thing around, well, have you done what I do? So how can you ask me or connect with what you're really asking me to do? So that one, yeah, when you were saying that, that really jumps out for me. I think and that's why I go to Gamba and those sorts of things. I really love that piece of lean where it's, or TPS. It's really about how would you know otherwise? Like you've got the data and the facts, but unless you're out there and you're having a look from their side of things, it's tough. So number one for me, mate, that one that jumped out definitely. So
Yeah, and I seem to remember that you spent some time down there too, right? And initially, when you were there, and that was very intentional for those exact reasons, right?
yeah, so they actually that I worked as an electrician in an underground coal mine for a bit over 3 years. So, but the first very early was they would put you straight into the production team and with supervision, of course, but wasn't a whole lot of electrical work. It was really about all the other bits and pieces, the interconnection of the other activities that were going on to really give you that awareness of there's a lot more going on than what you're down there to do, and how critical it is that people connect well, especially from a safety perspective. You've got to know
Hmm.
who's who, and I found it really powerful. And it gave, and some people got that early exposure and they didn't come back down. So it was a really good leveler too, and in any kind of workplace, I think, to get them know this is really what happens
Right.
in this space, and is that for you or not? So again, it was a good little filter, but yeah, definitely, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that time down there. But the teamwork was certainly powerful for a lot of those reasons.
Right, right. And I think about you said there's a lot more going on, than what you think. Um, the, I think that it's also important when it comes to empathy. Sometimes we try to separate work from our personal lives, but in reality, everyone brings baggage with them to work. The things that are happening at home, they spill over into their work, and for everyone, for all of us. And I think another big piece of this is really, you said teamwork and getting to know the team. And I think there's some value also in getting to know people on a more personal level and understanding some of the challenges that they have, in their family, with their kids, whatever it might be. And that just, again, it helps strengthen your own leadership skills when you go to work with somebody and that, they're a single parent that's, trying to make ends meet, and they're working all the overtime that they can get. And, now I'm out there trying to figure out how to get rid of their overtime. That's something that I should probably know before I just go out there and say, let's cut all the overtime, right? Putting myself in their shoes, understanding the struggles and challenges, not just in the work environment, but also in their personal lives. And that's going to help me when it comes to change management, when it comes to leading, people that have other challenges or struggles that I might not have. Or maybe I do have some similar struggles. And then again, that creates a connection as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's obviously lines where you can't get too involved, but just to have that awareness or know how to ask the right questions to help
Mm-hmm.
you connect with where they're coming from, but also, as I said, feed it back the other way. So if, I used to enjoy bringing people into some of the meetings that I would need to attend as an ops leader or a maintenance leader to see what we actually spoke about in there. And we actually had a really good system where for our tier 2 meeting and in our daily meetings, we would bring an operator off the floor to be in there, not only just to see what we talk about, but if there was any, how you going out there? How you really going? The graphs say this. It was a game changer for them actually going, wow, Andy, you guys get into it a bit in there. And it's like, well, that's right. We don't just come out here and say these things, right? Like there is reasons why I have to do my job too. And then I need you to see it from my side as well. And so, yeah, the best leaders I've worked with, they were hard but fair. And, we all had a job to do, but they would at some moment go, is this okay? Or, what sort of day you're having? Because we need to talk about something that sort of lead you into it and say, okay, we need to talk about something that I don't know how this is going to land with you. Instead of, right, everyone, state of the nation, this is it, and make it happen, or maybe this isn't the right place for you. It's doesn't reflect a lot of good follow-on behaviours or performance.
Right,
So
right. Yeah, I remember specifically working on some Kaizen activities around it was an assembly press, a large assembly press, and we were trying to get all of the components as close to the point of use as possible. And we created like a makeshift temporary kind of tray in front of the operator that we put all the components on and had everything being delivered right to the press so they didn't have to go anywhere. And I remember the operator, I think it was maybe a third shift operator, somebody that said, I can't, it's too tight. Like my arms are cramping up, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how can it be too tight? Like the least amount of, motion possible is the best. Like I kept saying that, and he's like, he challenged me. He said, why don't you come out here and instead of like running it for 2 minutes, like, why don't you run it for a full shift? Or longer, run it for a couple days, and then you tell me what you think. And so I accepted that challenge. And I remember going out there and, at the beginning I was like, oh, this is great. Like I'm flying. And then after a while, like I started to, like in similar fashion to him, like I started to kind of cramp up because I wasn't, extending my arms enough or stretching, I remember after a few hours, I started feeling exactly what that operator was feeling. And I felt to myself, obviously I had to go back and apologize. Like, you were completely right. We need to do something a little bit different so that you have the ability to actually, move your arms a little bit more. And again, it was just an example of putting ourselves in the shoes of those people that are doing the work and really understanding everything and anything that's going on, and making sure that we're not just making decisions for the bottom line. We're not just making decisions because we want to improve a metric, but we're really taking into consideration the feelings, the experiences, and just the challenges that, the people have that are working within that particular area.
Yeah, so important. And as I said, there is a line there where everyone's got to do their job, but most people I've had that experience with, they're pretty fair. If you spend, like you said, sometimes a few days or 4 hours a week or something like that, that's enough for them. They're like, well, yeah, they're actually more than 2 minutes splash, and then they're out again and they know everything about it. So there's that risk too. Like if you've done their job before, or you've moved up through the ranks and now you're in a leadership position, sometimes that can be more challenging because you may have done it a certain way when you were down there, and now you've moved into the leadership role. You might be asking them to do it a different way, and sometimes you have to remove yourself a little bit from how closely knitted you were to the team. So again, I think that trying to bring them on the journey and say, I know that we're all part of the same team and we all used to do the same stuff, but now I'm actually up here and I need you to appreciate some things are different now. I'm in a different role and I can't be down here doing it with you all the time. So it's two-way. It's definitely a two-way street for me.
It is. Well, and that kind of brings us over to the other point that I talked about around adaptability. And, I call it flexibility of mind, or just as leaders being willing to adapt or being willing to be flexible with things based on what you know and hear. And I talk about a story in my book, a military story about a general that had thought he had all of the information that he needed in order to make the best battle plan possible. But as soon as they got boots on the ground, everything went out the window, and he had to pivot and make adjustments to his plan based on what happened. We've talked about this before. I mean, think about the Tyson fight, right? And Tyson's famous quote about, everybody's got a good plan until they get punched. And, like, it's true, and as leaders, we can't just go, well, I said we were going to do it this way and we're going to do it that way. No, sometimes there are things that happen that are outside of our control or that we learn along the way. And as leaders, we have to be willing to make adjustments, to pivot in order to meet, our team members where they are, and obviously keeping the customer in mind and making sure that we're maximizing the value for the end customer. But I think there's a lot of leaders out there that kind of get stuck in like, well, we set a goal and no matter what happens, we're going to keep pushing forward on this objective or this goal, even though it's not really relevant anymore. I don't know if you have any experience with that or not.
Yeah, definitely. Like being not only hard on the what, so the goal or the outcome that we desire, but just being so rigid in the how, and just having, okay, well, we said the plan says we're going to do it like this, and that is it. Even if we have to stop and do it 10 times over, we're going to do it exactly this way. The skill with the adaptability piece is, okay, well, this is the plan. Do we want to have a moment to talk about, if that's not going well, what are we going to do? What's our contingency? Do we have a backup? Or if you've had that greater connection with your workers, is that level of trust that you talked about in your earlier part, is, okay, well, I've got enough people in the team here. If certain things don't go well, then I might just have to take their word for it, or we'll have enough support in place that we can try something to get us back on track. Or that goal is just, we got a bit excited there, and that's, our customer doesn't actually want it, and it's too far of a stretch. So let's just dial that back. So they've got to be open to it, and I do find it personally is a challenge sometimes when I'm going in to run a problem solving workshop, or what we call a Kaizen event. I kind of go in and I've got, right, we're going from this step to this step to this step to this step, and we're going to use these tools in this way. You've got to have a few things in your back pocket, because if the room changes, or there's a certain comment made, and it could be something that, wow, would bring the other 50% on board, you've got to be able to change in the moment and have that adaptability, like you said. So I think, whether we're leaders of teams, but also if we're leading people through exercises or through something completely new, we can't just have a cookie cutter approach. And that's again, is where the team is so important. We're there to lead. My mother, she has a lot of great sayings, but one she says to me is, I can be led, but I won't be pushed. And she's really great at, she's got a bit of an idea of what needs to happen, but very good at questions. And the right sort of questions at the right times to go, okay, well, I can see we're kind of going this way. Because, and I'm the same, I'd say. Like, I love to feel like I'm having some sort of say in what's going on. So but also trusting the leaders that, well, they're in that role for a reason. And the plan, we should try and stick to the plan. So.
Yeah, for anyone that knows Craig Tedrow, he talks a lot when he tells his story of being introduced to lean when he was at a large furniture company. He says he makes the comment that lean was done to me versus done with me, right? So think about that. I mean, as leaders, if you were to take an assessment of how you're deploying continuous improvement into your organization, do the people in your organization feel like it's being done to them, or are you coming alongside them, and is it something that's being done with them? Because soft skills are essential in ensuring that your team is together with you on this journey. If you go out there and you're just telling and directing and making decisions that again, may affect people's personal lives or whatever it is, but not taking into consideration, what that may do, and having those open discussions with your team, you could lose them very quickly, and they're not going to be on board with you, and it's going to be an uphill battle versus listening, understanding. I talked about some of those skills in communication of active listening and genuinely being interested in making sure that you bring your team members along, listening to their challenges and responding to those appropriately. I mean, all of those things are so important when we are on our lean journey. And I think it's so important.
Yeah, well, that there's a thing that stands out for me, is that first bite with the eye. Or so whenever I'm introduced to a new colleague or a leader, or I'm coming to them for the first time, I know the eyes are on them, and it's really important how you conduct yourself in that first exchange, or soon after. For people are really keen to try and find out who you are, and a lot of times they're trying to find the faults or the little dents in you where they may not be happy that you're even there, or and a way in, if you know what I mean. So uh, I think back, we had I'll use different names. Okay, so we had a leader, we'll call him Kel from Hell, and he was someone that that from day one you'd hear this guy coming, right? It would come in, it'd just be a wall of sound, and we've been told this, it's got to happen. Don't have me come back in here again, blah, blah, blah. And it was like straight away, people would sort of nod and go, "Yep, no worries." But as soon as he left, there'd they might get the bare minimum done, but they used to get up to some mischief and deliberately leave some other things out, or really try and undermine this guy to get back at him because they just did not appreciate the way that this person was talking to them. Or the other analogy is like the leader who is the pigeon, and that analogy is around they fly in there, crap all over everything, and then they fly away again, and the team's just kind of like, what, you know what, I don't feel like putting in any more than I need to for this person. So I just think that first impressions matter, and how we are. And look, some people are just naturally geared that way, and maybe get put in positions to just do that. But that's certainly not a place that a lot of people want to work for very long, or follow someone in that space. So yeah, Kel from hell. That's definitely a memory, that one there, Patrick.
Well, okay, let's just imagine that I'm a listener and I just happen to fall into that bucket of Kel from hell. Or maybe I'm kind of assessing myself here and going, man, I really need to improve some of my soft skills. One of the things that I talked about in the initial recording or presentation were a couple of practical steps that we can take as leaders to develop those soft skills. And I would definitely say, take inventory yourself, like be honest with yourself, first of all, and ask yourself how you're doing. When it comes to communication, you're chatting with the people on your team. Are you finding yourself picking your phone up and, sitting on your phone, checking your messages while you're talking to them? Are you in a conference room meeting and your phone's on the desk and it keeps buzzing and you keep looking over and making notes or whatever on your phone? That's probably something you want to work on, right? So take assessment, be real about those soft skills. I talked about self-reflection and, just reflecting on your own interactions, right? So that falls into that bucket. Another one I said is active practice. So intentional active practice. You can join a mentorship group. You can find a coach, a one-on-one coach in your organization, or a third-party coach that can help you with that. But you can also do active practice. Go out to the Gemba, like you said, Andy, and actually practice some of these skills. Ask people about their personal lives. Genuinely listen, and leave your phone in your office. Seek feedback. So ask the team how you're doing when it comes to your soft skills. Ask your peers. Solicit feedback from your supervisor or your manager. And then the last one was leading by example, and that consistency is key. This shouldn't be something that it shouldn't be a flavor of the month thing, right? It should be like, this is something that I'm committing to long term. I'm going to develop the behaviors and the habits that I currently don't have. But at the end of all of this, I want these to become habits in how I approach the work that I do on a day-to-day basis. So given those four kind of practical steps, Andy, would you have anything to add to that? Do you have any other ideas about how, people that are listening in can start to develop some of those soft skills?
I just think, like you said, that type of assessment, where are you now? I find it helpful to do things like 360 reviews from peers and your leaders. I find that getting some training on emotional intelligence has been very helpful for me. So, and there's a lot of, I guess there's psychological type profiling things you can do, like disc profiling, Hogan's assessments. Sorry if that's calling brands of whatever, but it's just some that I've been through in the past. That really helps connect with the people side of not only yourself, but the team. If you've got an idea and it really helps, just make clear that, we don't all think the same. And for me, 6 months ago, my team gave me feedback that across, let's just say if we took all those soft skills as areas of assessment, goes really well in communication and empathy, but pretty bad with problem solving and time management or things like that, because you don't know what you don't know. So I really find that's like anything in what I see as great continuous improvement is, where are we now? Like, what's the current situation? And then me as a leader, or someone, when I think about that leader that I would follow, as they say, into the gates of hell, what did they model in behaviors, and how can I somehow, get a measurement as to where I am compared to that, and then what are the steps? What's my next target condition? Work towards that, and I get to know more about yourself. But again, getting to know your teams, and I love to try and put some sort of tangible measure on it. There's, I don't know whether it fits in here, but it's definitely something I love to call out when it comes to when we talk about soft skills or hard skills. It's a real shame sometimes, and I might do it too, I guess. I'd love your feedback, listeners, if I'm doing it right now, is you have somebody, they're just so skilled and talented in a technical space, or they've got rich experience, and they're just such a great technical resource, but they're just hopeless with people, or they just throw something out there and the message is, it wouldn't matter what they're selling, no one's going to buy it, because you're just kind of poking people in the eye and then saying, oh, hey, would you come along and maybe try this? It's like most people are like, no way. Because it's not it's not what you do, it's who you are that I think most people gravitate towards. So yeah, that's definitely something, if you're feeling like that's you, or you connect with a leader who's like that, again, that hang on, where are you now? Respectfully getting that eyes on your book smart, but it's kind of got to keep you locked in the back room, because you're just terrible with people and they just don't want to engage at that level to really help them give you what they've got to offer. So whether that's a rant or whatever, I just drop that in there because I think that's so important with leaders that, have that skill, but they just, that soft side really needs a lot of work.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think that's a great way for us to kind of wrap up today is with leaving you with kind of that call to action from Andy. Take assessment, create a plan, maybe even incorporate a little kata into it, and establish yourself a long-term goal and what's your next target condition, and just start intentionally working towards that. Find someone that can hold you accountable and work on those behaviors and those habits, and really start to transform the way that you approach the people that are on your team, your peers, and even those that are above you in your organization that you report to. So I think that's a great way to close, Andy. Any last comments for everyone around the topic for today as we close out?
I'll never forget the day I first heard this saying, but it was something around, people will forget what you say or do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think that really ties into, for me, what I connect with soft skills.
So true.
That's so critical, and people will follow you if you can get this right. So thanks, mate. Great topic, and look forward to catching up with you next time.
All right. Take care, Andy.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe. This way you'll get updates as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please give us a review. Thank you so much.